my skull sketchbook. Every time I hold one of my sketchbooks, I feel like I'm home. Feels good. This is my skull sketchbook, and it's one of my many sketchbooks that I have. And with this one, of course, what the name says, it focuses on skulls. And so that's kind of what I do in here, is just practice drawing skulls and bone, and sometimes I'll have fun with it and do different things, like this one, where I kind of create my own variation of it, of a skull, a human skull. But it is one of my many sketchbooks where I get to explore ideas and kind of simplify my thought process and just practice technique oftentimes. But you know, it's one of my favorite things to do, is to draw in my sketchbook. You know, with this particular sketch, it started off, of course, as a rough sketch, an idea of what I wanted to do in my mind. And usually when I start something in my sketchbook, it's to kind of simplify painting for me. I don't really have a lot of time to dedicate to my larger paintings, but I have to keep busy. I have to keep drawing, painting, and if I don't, well, it's like I can't breathe anymore. That's the way I look at it. So I try to stay busy with my sketchbooks. And I have the different sketchbooks. I have a portrait sketchbook, my skull sketchbook. I have a tree sketchbook, where I get to explore, you know, different ways of approaching a drawing of a tree. But it's kind of exercise for me. And in a large part, it is therapy. It is how I process life and the day-to-day of life and everything that's going on, and you know, it's kind of a way I get to think things through. With this drawing, with this painting, there was a few things that I wanted to explore. One of them was texture. I was trying to, every time I do a skull painting or a sketch, the texture of the skull is very interesting. In my studio, I have a pretty nice collection of skulls, some real, some cast out of resin, animals, humans, you know, it doesn't matter. And I'm fascinated by skulls, or just bone in general, because it has so much movement. There's so many things happening within just a small part of a skull or bone. And that's, you know, as an artist, that's a challenge to try to paint and capture. And with that comes texture, of course. So I was exploring texture with this piece, and I was also very interested in what I can do with flake white. I mean, flake white has a few different names: flake white, lead white, Kremnitz white. I prefer Kremnitz white, and that's the one that I use, even though it's all really the same. But it's a very specific type of white pigment, and it works very differently than titanium white. And so I wanted to see if I could glaze using this pigment, and that was, another one of my goals with this piece, and seeing how it affects the underlying layers of this painting. I started this with purples. What was the other color? Van Dyke brown. And I just wanted to kind of start it in a very chaotic way, and then try to solve that problem, which is a big intrigue of mine when I'm starting paintings, is start something from chaos in a very chaotic way and then try to solve it. And for the most part, when it comes to painting, I'm fairly successful. So it's the only time I'm successful with that. So it works out pretty well. But that's one of the things I was trying to do, is kind of figure out these colors, how to approach them, how to layer them up, and of course with the challenge of using white as a glaze, which you don't really, not a lot of artists are using white to glaze up in layers. And that was one of the other goals of mine, and kind of seeing if I can achieve that glow, that vibrancy of Kremnitz white. And I feel I was very successful with that as far as I'm concerned. These paintings are purely for myself. What anyone thinks of it doesn't really matter at all. But I feel like I was really successful with that goal that I had placed for myself. And so, that was another thing that I was trying to do. Having colors show through right here in the jaw and in the cheekbone. The teeth are a whole different thing. And, I had a lot of fun really doing this. The other part of this that I really enjoyed was, which I'm trying to do more often in my work, is leaving marks that are unfinished. If I can be more poetic about it, almost like things unsaid. And at least that's the thought that comes into my mind, is when I'm painting, I like to kind of think of some of them as poetry. And essentially, we are poets, visual poets. And that's kind of my approach to this poem, leaving things unsaid. Brushstrokes that weren't finished, weren't intended to complete a detail. And that's probably the most enjoyment that I got from this piece, is just leaving little marks here and there, whether it's abstract or not. I feel like I was trying to say something with those marks, and I really did enjoy them. I've got a little red right in the teeth, a little red mark that I just took, brushed and then took a palette knife and scraped across. The old me wouldn't have done anything like this. I was such a detail fanatic, and I thought everything had to be refined and everything had to be said. And as I get older and hopefully wiser, I try to not say everything. Sometimes there's a lot of beauty in just that. I did a little bit of that right here, right under the orbital bone, inside the eye. This was a kind of a manipulated skull, and so it has two eye sockets, two orbital bones, and so I tried to leave some marks inside there. But I think my favorite one was the yellow right there. That yellow was just, I just brushed it on and had to be okay with it. And I worked really hard in not touching that area. I didn't want to get rid of it. I thought it was the best part of this poem for myself, because as I was doing it, I felt a certain way about it. And I don't know, I guess for me, that little mark there was one of my favorite parts. With this piece, I was also trying to experiment a little bit with colors. And the color that I chose for that goal that I had placed upon myself was cadmium yellow deep. And that's, of course, what I used for the stroke over there. And I used it heavily right here between the branches to help kind of contrast the branches a little bit, or the bone branches, as I like to call them. But I just wanted to see if I can pull that off, if I could use this color that, kind of didn't belong in this setting, and see if I could make it work. And again, I was really happy with the outcome of it. Like I said, I approach these paintings and sketchbook drawings as kind of poetry, and each one is its own separate poem that I'm trying to write. And oftentimes it's personal, to others it's just a painting of a skull. But to me, it's a poem that I was writing for myself. And while I was painting it, I was going through all the ups and downs of life. And, when I look at it, I kind of try to, remember those moments, and hopefully I resolved some of them. But I think as a painting, I accomplished my goal for this piece. But yeah, it's a interesting painting, I think, for what I was trying to do. And it's just one of many in the sketchbook of skulls. Yeah.